Dear students, we are going to discuss today a topic which is very, very significant in our everyday life as well as in organizational life. The paper which we are dealing right now is Organizational Behavior. The paper code is HU801A. And the unit that we have picked up is Unit 5. The unit name is Group Behavior. So, firstly, we'll be starting up with the introduction to the concept, what exactly the group is. You see, all of you are aware of this word group itself since your childhood. You used to go to play cricket in playground or play football in football ground, playground. There you used to play within some group, being a part of a group. You sit in the classroom rather, in a group. Your particular class is a group itself within the school or within the college. You can take even your own family as a group within the society in which you live. And since the inception of the human civilization, the human have been living in groups rather than living individually. The primitive humans, they experienced, they felt, they realized that it will be fruitful for them to stay in groups in comparison to staying individually. They saw, they felt, they realized that if they remain in groups, then there will be lots of advantages in their everyday life as well as in the overall production system. Whatever production system was there during that era. We can take the example of hunting. Hunting is also a production during the primitive era, primitive society. So while hunting, this activity was done by the human beings in groups, then there will be a work division of work, division of task. Some of the peoples within the group will be responsible for, trapping the animal, trapping the prey. Some of them will be responsible for, hitting that animal or killing that animal or beast, and some will be responsible for carrying the body. This way, this entire product, that is the killed animal that comes out for the consumption of the entire group. So what we see is people realized that if the individuals, they work together, then there will be a synergy effect. What is synergy? 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. Wherein you multiply the output with the whatever inputs you have. And the biggest factor the peoples came into groups, they started residing in groups, is the factor of fear. Fear of what? Fear of unknown. Firstly, fear of uncertainty, fear of accidents, fear of phenomena. So there were too many things which were, in fact, in the very beginning and even still now, which are threats to the human existence. So it was experienced by the human being that while they live in groups, then they can address to those threats collectively, and they can have control over most of the threats if they are in groups. So this is what is the historical background of the group formation. And later on, when industrial revolutions was started in 15th century, with the very first textile mills in UK, the concept of factory emerged, in which a number of peoples will be working together under the same roof, within the same environment, utilizing the almost same kind of technology, and being operative within certain system. This is how they could address the increasing demand for certain goods. That's how the concept of factory emerged, in which whatever the volume of the demand is, in order to address that volume, you always needed a group of people working for you as a manager of certain factory or as a owner of certain factory or certain company. This is how the study of group behavior, study of group dynamics, how does the group behave within the organization, started within the organization. So now we'll be trying to establish the definition of group. Although there are thousands of definitions, we can generally say that a group is a collection of individuals, two or more than two peoples, who interact with each other such that one person's actions have an impact on the others. In another way of defining group, we can define group as a collection of two or more than two people working together with certain system with them, with certain technology with them, to attain some goal. And that goal is nothing but to produce certain product, either it is a goods or services. Now we come to characteristics of the group. There are certain characteristics which will be determining the existence of the group. The very first characteristic is size. It should be always more than two people. It might be 20, it might be 200, it might be 2000. And then we go to goals. Always groups are formed in order to attain some goal. The third one is norms. A group will always be operative following certain norms, following certain principles. Without the norms, without the principles, without the disciplines, the group will not be a group. Then always there is a structure in any group. There is a interrelationships among the various units of that group. Then comes the roles. Who will do what? Because it's been proven in history of organization, history of management, that although there are too many kinds of conflicts, most of the conflicts occur due to the lack of role clarity in any organization. So assigning roles, defining roles, and ascertaining roles is very, very important in any group. Then comes the interaction. How do the peoples interact within? How do the peoples interact outside the organization, outside the group? Then comes collective identity. One individual who is a part of the group is having a dual identity. One identity is the individual identity, personal identity, and another identity is the collective identity. These are the characteristics of a group. Now we'll try to discuss a few points which will make us clear about why the people, after all, will be joining groups. The very first point is security. In order to address the security needs, the individual joins the group. Then comes the self-esteem. People would like to relate oneself with the group so that his or her self-esteem need is addressed by that particular group. Then comes the power. Everybody wants to be powerful in this world. And of course, remaining individual, remaining alone will not make one a powerful fellow. So if one is associated with certain group, then that particular person can achieve certain level of power. which he or she can use or utilize for his or her own benefit. Then comes the status symbol. So group is also helpful to come out with certain status symbol. Then the affiliation. People always like to affiliate with like-minded people, the people's having almost same kind of goals. Then comes goal achievement. Always every individual joins any organization with certain goal that is not an individual goal, and that particular individual goal is ultimately linked up with the organizational goals. Now after this we come to the classification of groups. There are although too many types of classifications. We go to the flat classification of the groups, which is generally accepted. There are two classes of groups. One is formal group and another is informal group. Formal group is a designated work group that is defined by the organization's structure, and informal group is a group that is neither formally structured nor organizationally determined. But then it is seen in most of the case studies that the informal groups are much more powerful than formal groups, and every formal group in fact contains the informal groups. Now we come to how the group evolves, how the group develops. If there is no any group at all within the group of within a bunch of people, then if they would like to form certain group, like for example we can take, like if you people only would like to start some company, some organization, or you'd like to establish some club, and it comes in your mind first, then you will be leader of that particular group, which you will be needing later on to materialize your idea. And of course without people you cannot go ahead. So suppose if you would like to form a club, and that particular club has to have some certain motto. So the motto is saving environment. Suppose you'll be doing certain environmental tasks, so you cannot do it alone. So you form a group with certain like-minded people, with the peoples having almost same kind of goals. So you interacted with them, you discussed with them, and ultimately you people decide. Suppose 10 of you are there who decide to form a nature club. So right now, but then once it is formed, there will be certain, your group will be encountering certain level in which certain stage rather, in which like you people will be differing in your ideas while you'd like to go ahead. Then ultimately that difference in your ideas, difference in your opinions will lead you people to a stage in which like you people will be in a conflicting situation, conflicting level. So following this conflict, lots of people who are there sticking towards certain opinion, and lots of people, other group of people are there within that particular group who are sticking to suppose other opinion. Right now there will be a negotiation, there will be a understanding among this group of people, and ultimately certain forms of norms are made, certain understanding, mutual understanding points are developed, based on which that particular group will start to perform. And this stage is performing stage. Once this stage is crossed, then we come to adjourning stage. Groups will, suppose like if still the conflict persists, if still the group members are not cohesive enough, then that particular group will be vanished. So Tuckman gave 5 stage group development model. The stages includes, the first stage is forming, wherein the group forms. The next stage is storming. Storming means wherein the group members will start sharing their ideas, and they'll find the differences in their ideas. This is the storming period, storming phase. Then a certain level of conflict will be there, conflict in opinions, conflict in ideas. Then ultimately there will be some understanding level, and that understanding level is formation of the understanding between the group members, and this particular stage is known as norming. Then once the norm is made, then based on these norms the group members start performing. So this is the general pattern in which the group firstly begins, starts or forms, then it reaches the stage of storming, then it goes to the stage of norming, then it ultimately starts performing. So most of the companies in today's market is seen getting dissolved, getting diluted, getting liquidated, and out of these companies, most of the companies, they die, and this stage is known as adjourning. So there are 5 stages of group, and this doesn't mean that all the company this adjourning phase is not applicable to those companies which are still existing. Like if you, for example, take the company like Tata, Reliance, Birla, all these companies are existing. So these companies have fulfilled all these 4 stages, crossed these 4 stages, but these companies are yet to attain the stage of adjourning. And if these companies do well, then they will never attain this particular stage. But then if you talk about the company like Aircel is today no more there in Indian market. So it also formed, it also stormed, and it also developed the norms, and it also performed. But then ultimately, like after crossing these stages of group formation, forming, storming, norming and performing, this ultimately adjourned. So it also achieved the level of adjourning. So this is the Tuckman's 5-stage model of group development. Now we'll be discussing certain conditions that are imposed on the group, and these conditions will be detrimental conditions which will determine the fate of the group. One of the conditions is organization's overall strategy. Whatever strategy is there implied by the organizational top level managers, that strategy is definitely, certainly going to impact on the performance of the overall group. Next is authority structures. Whatever structures is maintained in a group, like who will be leading, who will be following, who will be peers. So this particular structure will be affecting the performance. Next is formal regulations. Whatever regulations are developed for all the group members, this regulation is going to certainly impact on the performance of the group. Then resource constraints. You see, like most of the organizations perform, they are in operation, and these organizations which are performing, which are operating, it is seen that most of the organizations work under certain limitations of resources. So there is always a constraint of resources. Without the proper resource discovery and proper resource allocation, the group will not perform well. Then comes selection process. How will you select the group members? How will you select the tasks for them? This also is an important factor. Then performance evaluation system. This is basically a HR task, human resources task, in which the performance of every group member is to be evaluated. It has to be examined, and it has to be evaluated, and the report should be given to the group member, so that if he or she has got certain lacking, certain lacuna, then that will be mended up by the that will be revised by the group member for the better performance. Organizational culture is also one of the most important point, in which the culture of the organization will play a big role in the performance of the group. Although organizational culture, it is it is having a bigger dimension even within the organization and outside the organization. Then physical work setting, this is also very important aspect in discussion in the groups. Then we come to the group member resources. Like what are the resources that are in the group? Basically, we see the resources that are there in any group can have three various characteristics. One is knowledge, another is skills, and another is abilities. Knowledge is very, very important. The level of the knowledge that each member in a group that is existing there in that particular group, that knowledge is going to play a bigger role to establish that particular group as a useful entity for the organization. Then comes the skills. Without the knowledge, it's incomplete. Unless you imbibe the skills with the knowledge, then this knowledge will be worthless. And again, in turn, vice versa, skills without the knowledge is dangerous. So and ultimately the ability to perform, ability to materialize your ideas drawn from your knowledge. So these three tenets are there in the group in almost every member. Now we'd like to go to the group structure cohesiveness. You see, cohesiveness is the degree to which to which group members are attracted to each other and are motivated to stay in the group. So increasing group cohesiveness is very, very important aspect for any organization. So how to increase the cohesiveness in any organization, in any group? There are certain strategies or tactics. One of them is making the group size always, keeping the group size always smaller, and encouraging one sort of agreement with all the group agreement with the group goals, and increasing the time that is shared by every group members. If you increase the time of this togetherness, then this will of course increase the cohesiveness. We see that now we'll be discussing the group structure and its composition. You see, the composition of a group will be depending on the demography of the group, which is in fact age, sex, race, educational level, income level, length of service, and etc. Now we come to decision making. How the groups make decision. You see, decision making is very, very important for any group, as because it is the decision that takes that particular group to certain goal, wherein the group materializes the concepts, the ideas of the management into tasks, into operation. Because that operation needs certain planning. Without the planning, that operation cannot be executed, and that planning depends on what sort of decisions are made by the group. And even individuals make the decisions, but then the decision making that is there by there by an individual and the decision making that is made by certain group is different. So how does a group make decision? Firstly, the typical groups in which members interact with each other face to face to take certain decision. They discuss on various issues, various aspects of the subject matter. Then they brainstorm, they interact, and then they throw certain ideas, certain opinions. Then ultimately they search for certain alternatives. Various alternative models of the ideas are presented in the form of brainstorming. Then a group decision making method in which the individual members meet face to face to pull their judgment in a systematic but independent fashion will be known as nominal group decision making technique. Then we have electronic meeting. Exactly during the COVID, even the Prime Minister is holding the e-meeting with the various CMs of various states today. So this is something wherein the virtual platform is used for group decision making. So we got 4 models. One is interacting group model, another is group decision making model, another is brainstorming, another is nominal group technique, and another technique we saw is electronic meeting. So we have discussed most of the aspects of group behavior, group dynamics. I hope that I have been able to clarify certain points on group dynamics to you people. Thank you.